All right, excellent. All right, guys, welcome to this city council meeting. This is a regularly scheduled city council meeting. As such, the rules of decorum are in effect and in place. So during the meeting, please remain silent while council discusses. There are two time periods in which you're allowed to make comments, and that is during the public comment section and also during public hearings. Now, council does reserve the right to call you up during a discussion of an item that you might have information or insight into. Council will do that by requesting that you come forward to the podium. And with that, 5:30, we begin the meeting. Please stand for the pledges. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Please be seated. All right. Alex, we have a quorum this evening with all council members present. Proof of notice of meeting, please, Alex.
Thank you, Mayor. Notice of this meeting was posted by 2 p.m. on June 13, 2025.
Perfect, thank you. Alex, do we have any public comments?
No public comments.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to public hearings. After I read the public hearing, if you're here to speak on it, you'll come to the podium, state your name, your ward, and you'll have 3 minutes to make your comment, at which time the timer will go off and you'll be asked to sit down, please. Remember, during this time, council cannot respond to you. So if you ask council a question, we can't respond. All right, so we are beginning public hearings, Alex, at 5:32 p.m. Public hearing A to obtain citizen views and comments regarding the second and final reading of ordinance 2025-06-02, an ordinance approving rezone application 2025-06-02, amending the official zoning map of the city by rezoning the property located at 1009 East Gallego Avenue and legally described as all of lots 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and the east half of Lot 3 and 9 in Block 33, Hancock Addition, south of the railroad. Save and accept the North 20 Veris of lots 4 and 5, and the North 20 Veris of east 1/2 of Lot 3, Block 33, Hancock Addition, south of the railroad. As the same appears in the map of plat records on file in the office of the county clerk of Brewster County, Texas, rezoning the subject property from R4 Mobile Home District to C1 Neighborhood Commercial District, providing findings of fact, repealer, severability, effective date, proper notice, and hearing clauses. Is there anybody here to speak on behalf of this? Okay, please come forward, state your name, your ward, and remember, council cannot respond.
My name is Mike Mayanes. I am the owner of the property that I just described. And Madam Mayor, members of the council, all the city officials, thank you for coming before you once again. And to state my case for the property that was just described. We bought that, none of it, but you might have heard the last time we bought the property in 1970. And we've had a business up there ever since. And we always thought that that property was commercial. Last year in 2024, when Mr. Sean Hopper requested to have his 4 lots changed into commercial. I went by the city office and I told the people I was gonna be out of town. I couldn't be at the meeting, but I didn't have any objections to those lots being commercial also. And so we kind of conversed a little bit there, and they said, "What block are you talking about?" Block 33. Said it's not commercial. It's been commercial ever since I can remember. So I went by the appraisal office. The appraisal office had listed it as commercial. And you know, I've requested a building permit to improve the building several years ago. And the building permit says commercial, city of Alpine. I've been paying commercial rates for the waters garbage and sewage services that city provides. So I thought all along they were commercial. So apparently the maps have not been outdated or anyway, I just want to describe the area in there. There's a 3-block, 4-block, 5-block area on both sides of Gallego Avenue in there that are commercial. And there's 2 residences in those 2-block areas. It's got sidewalks on both sides of the street. It's a very, very busy street. You have a lot of people coming from out of town, 18-wheelers, the bus, RV vehicles are big ones. They all have to turn up there on Maverick Inn, go down Neville Plains and right in front of our property. Because it's kind of difficult for them to make it when you by Cobus's Loop. So it's a highly traveled area. That area in there, the street next to one of the kitty corners, South Harrison Street. A lot of you were not here then, but South Harrison Street was one that went to Big Bend National Park. So there's a lot of old businesses that existed along that street in there. You had an old movie house, barbershops, and Shadow Cafe and Shadow Bar, where she has grocery and meat markets.
Okay,
and all
that's
that.
your time. Thank you
So-
so much, Mr. Payanis.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate you all.
Thank you. All right, public hearing B to obtain citizen views and comments regarding the second and final reading of ordinance 2025-06-03 and ordinance amending chapter 90 taxation, article 5, short-term rentals of the Alpine Code of Ordinance, amending the rules and regulations regarding short-term rentals within the city limits, providing the establishment of up to a $500 penalty per occurrence for violations of the ordinance, providing for the following finders of fact, enactment, repealer, penalty, saving, severability, proper notice, and meeting and effective date clauses. Is there anybody here to speak on behalf of this? Okay, seeing none, moving on to public hearing C to obtain citizen views and comments regarding the second and final reading of ordinance 2025-06-04 and ordinance amending chapter 46, fire prevention and preservation, article 2, fire prevention codes 46-43, violations to reflect that fire permit and inspection fees may be set by annual city council resolution, providing the establishment of up to a $500 penalty per occurrence for violations of the ordinance, providing for the following finders of fact, enactment, repealer, penalty, saving, severability, proper notice, and meeting and effective date clauses. Is there anyone here to speak on this? Okay, seeing none, we're moving on to public hearing D to obtain citizen views and comments regarding the second and final reading of ordinance 2025-06-05 and ordinance amending chapter 10, animals to the Alpine Code of Ordinances, amending section 10-48, registration of dogs and cats, amending section 10-49, finders of lost dogs and cats, amending section 10-50, dead animals, duty to remove, amending section 10-52, keeping of wild animals and exotic animals, providing amended language to provide additional clarification throughout the chapter, providing updates to animal department and facility titles within the city, providing the establishment of up to a $500 penalty per occurrence for violations of the ordinance, and providing for the following findings of fact, enactment, repealer, penalty, saving, severability, proper notice, and meeting and effective date clauses. Is there anyone here to speak on this? Okay, seeing none, I'm closing public hearings at 5:39 p.m. Alex. Okay, moving on to presentations, public presentations. There are no presentations and recognitions this evening. There are no proclamations this evening. Community interest items. Alex, please give each member 1 minute on the clock. If you would set that now for the mayor. Okay, first of all, I want to say thank you, Gio. Thank you for stepping up as the interim city manager. From here on out, I'm just going to refer to you as city manager for the sake of simplicity. Thank you for doing that. I know it's a lot to take on, and we appreciate that. 4th of July is going to kick off on the 4th at 10 a.m. with a parade starting at the swimming pool. If you want to be in the parade, you need to be there by 9. Also, Cinderella, the opening performance is July 5th at the Outdoor Theater. Viva Big Bend is coming up July 23rd through 27th. Big Bend Ranch Rodeo, August 8th and 9th. I wanted to point out that Chris Ruggia and Heather nominated the city for some 2025 Texas Travel Awards. And we are pleased to announce that we have received some of those awards. Council received an email this week to let us know that we have the best public art with our murals downtown, best museum with the Museum of the Big Bend, best outdoor activities with Big Bend stargazing, best Instagrammable spot, which is the desk, and best music venue being the Ritchie. So thank you to Chris and Heather for doing that. Well done. Chris is here. Thank you. All right, 1 minute for city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I have two announcements. One is that city offices will be closed on Thursday, June 19th in observance of Juneteenth. They will reopen Friday, June 20th at 8 a.m. And second, Alpine Community Project is celebrating their movement to the old schoolhouse at 207 East Colorado Avenue on June 20th at 5:30. The organization will be holding an ice cream social and everybody is invited to that.
Thank you. Thanks. All right, Councilmember Stevens, 1 minute.
Thanks, Mayor. The only item I have is, Gio, I thought you were gonna bring it up relative to the pool. Lots of consternation about the pool. We all got a notice about that. I'm glad we got the pool continue to stay open. So I got a lot of notes that what happened to the pool. So good news is pool is still open. Thanks to the team for making that happen.
Yes. Councilmember Escobedo. Councilmember, okay. Councilmember Martinez. Councilmember Portillo.
Don't come.
All right, so that concludes public presentations. Council, any changes to the posted agenda? Are there any items to be continued or withdrawn, council? Okay, seeing none.
No, Mayor, I'll raise my hand.
Okay.
I move that we withdraw item 11J because the issue's been.
Okay, item 11, HIJ, city manager. Okay, so that's by simple request. So, or actually, that's a motion, a second, and a majority vote. So do I have a second to remove that item?
I see.
All right, any discussion? Let's vote.
Aye.
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 All right. Alex, we have removed item 11J, which is discuss and appoint an interim city manager because that has already been done. All right, items to be removed from the consent agenda. Are there any items? Just by simple request. Okay. Action items to be added to the consent agenda. Okay, seeing none. Are there any time-sensitive items?
I'd like to request action item I, it's the audit. She's here from out of town, so if we could go ahead and consider that item during that section.
Okay, and with that, that's by simple request. So we will consider that item under item number 6 on the agenda. Okay, so time sensitive, which would be that item. Okay, so come on up. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Where from out of town are you?
My name is Marlene Strickler. I'm from Gibson, Ruddock, Patterson in El Paso, Texas.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And I'm here to present your 9/30/2023 audit. financial
2023.
statement audit.
Okay.
And I thought I would start real quick, just going over a kind of audit overview. The financial statement audit consists of your basic financial statement audit and also government auditing standards. Because you are a government, so you must follow the government auditing standards. Each of these have their own layers and specific requirements. We conduct multiple tests of controls and compliance for each of these layers and that are required by the state, by the Government Accounting Standards Board, and auditing standards. We assist a full accrual conversion because your regular statements, your governmental fund statements are on a modified accrual basis. And to present 2 of the exhibits in the report, they are full accrual, so we assist with that. You have received an unmodified opinion for that year, and which is a clean opinion. We did have a letter that we included in your packet of recommendations, and there was that a repeat finding on the billing system, that you had in 22 and it's still there. So that's kind of an overview. If you would like to look at the graphs, perfect. The graphs are a summary of the big report. So instead of going page by page, which I'm sure you don't want to do, because then you won't even get out of here by 8:45. So the graphs are a summary of the report. So we'll start with the governmental revenue. And if you wanted to see where these figures are coming from, it's page 26 of the printed book. So if you want to go back and look at that or look right now. And the first, we'll look at property taxes, the blue section of this graph for 2023. There was an increase of about 57,000, and that was related to appraised values increasing with an offset of the tax decreasing that year. For the yellow section, the sales and other taxes, you will see that there was a decrease of about 204,000, and the majority of that was related to sales tax. There was a decrease in sales tax. I believe in 22, you received a very large payment for some sales tax. And there was also a slight decrease in your hotel motel tax of about 21,000, and then an increase of about 2,000 in other miscellaneous taxes. For the gray section, the intergovernmental, that includes your grants, and there was a decrease of about 137,000, and that mainly related to your Homeland Security grant that ended in 2022. And then there was a slight decrease in HIDA that year for 6,000. I know HIDA can fluctuate each year, just depending. For the green section, that's your admin and franchise fees. Those are the fees that are charged to the water and gas fund since they don't pay taxes. So it's in lieu of taxes. And there was a slight increase overall in that of about 4,000. The other revenue section, that is mainly due to an increase in your investment income because of the interest rates increase. The next page is your general fund expenditures, and that also is on page 26 of the book. And if you guys have questions while I'm talking, you can just let me know. So page 26, and it's just the general fund. The revenue was the total column because it was all of your governmental revenue. So your general expenses, which is your general government departments, that includes like non-departmental, city council, admin, municipal court, HR, finance, and building maintenance. That had a slight increase of 13,000. There was an $83,000 increase in salaries and benefits, and then a $59,000 decrease in the sunshine house improvements because that was more in 2022. And then there was a decrease of about 8,000 in supplies. So that's why the increase was lowered and not accounted for the whole salaries and benefits. Public safety, the green section, that includes your police, fire, and code enforcement. And there was a slight increase of about 16,000. Salaries and benefits increased about 81,000. And then you had other decreases in contract labor of about 33,000, 12,000 decrease in maintenance, 10,000 decrease in supplies, and 10,000 in other costs such as your federal warning system and enforcement cleanup. So that's what accounted for that net increase. Public works, your yellow section, that was a $600,000 decrease, and that was mainly due to the street paving projects that were completed in 2022. You didn't have as many in 23 as you did. The health and welfare, that had a very small increase of about 6,000, which is due to salaries and benefits. Your culture and recreation, that's your parks and pools. So there was a slight decrease, and that was due to salaries and benefits, and there was a workers' comp decrease in that area. You go to the next graph. This is your general fund equity. So this is your general operating fund, and it's your your fund equity, your fund balance. And as you can see, it did increase, so that's good. It's not decreasing. And your unassigned, which is what you can use for general everyday operations, also had an increase. And you have 264 days of expenditures in your fund balance as of 9/30/23. So that's very good. You guys have been building that up, so that's good in case of emergencies or if you have big projects coming up and wanted to allocate some of that. And then the 746, that is committed by council. And that, if you wanted to see the detail of what that is committed for, it is on page 83 of your book. It'll detail it out, and I believe you had committed so much to capital improvements, about 300,000. The Creek Trail Reserve was about 240,000. And then you had the fire department of 200,000. Now, if you do decide as a council that you want to recommit those for some other project, you just have to uncommit by a resolution and then recommit them again. So that is your general fund equity, so it's looking really good as of 9/30/23.
So Marlene, do we know if those funds were expended?
That is the amount that has not been expended as of September 2023.
Yeah, so do you have any insight
Oh, if it's
over
been
the
spent
last year?
yet? No, I do not.
Thanks.
I have not received the trial balance for 9/30/24 yet.
Okay.
Excuse me.
When do you usually receive it?
Well. Can I get some water?
Yes.
Is there water? I'm like choking all of a sudden. We receive it in January. Usually around January. Sorry. But I know with, the finance director position being vacant for off and on for a couple years, they are behind a little bit. And I know Vicky has already posted all of the entries from 23 to 24, so your opening balances are correct. So I know she's been working on it to try to clean everything up, so that's good. The next graph is your water, sewer, and sanitation fund. And that revenue had an increase of about 131,000, or decrease, sorry. And that was due to a decrease in the number of accounts and consumption mostly. The expenses, there was a slight decrease of about 72,000. There was a slight decrease in your landfill closure costs of 26,000. Your admin and franchise fee decreased a little bit. And your waste collection fees increased about 47,000. There was a decrease in supplies and engineering fees. I am so sorry.
It's okay.
It's just dry.
It happens to all of us. Don't worry.
And then, when you're driving, you don't want to drink a lot. So you
Yeah,
have to stop a lot.
That's right, yeah. So that's,
So I try not to, and then I'm like, I'm gonna be dying later. The next graph is your gas utility fund. And the revenue in that fund increased about 281,000. And that was mainly related to the rate increase during the year and an increase in usage. And your expenditures or expenses decreased about 90,000. There was an increase in the franchise and admin fee and an increase in safety equipment, which was offset by the decrease in the settlement fees with WTG. And then there was a slight increase in salaries and benefits. And that summarizes your annual financial report. And if you wanted to see I don't know if you guys did look at the finding, but it was the same one as last year. That is on page 113. And it's just talking about how there's some discrepancies in the reports coming out of the system are being reconciled to the general ledger. And so, and I know that there's been some problems, in trying to get accurate information on those reports. but I think they have. Did I hear that you guys were looking at new systems or?
Right, for utilities. It's mostly our utility that was giving us the problem.
Correct.
Right, and we have implemented that, I believe, or we're working on implementing that. City manager, do you know the process of that? Going to training here recently or soon for implementation of the new utility software?
So we're planning to launch that in October, if everything goes well.
Yes, it's easier to do it at the beginning of fiscal year than
Right,
middle of the year.
sure. Good.
And then the other letter was the letter of management recommendations were made into strengthen controls, that little small letter. that you got, it's to strengthen controls and improve processes. They weren't significant enough to be a finding, but we saw the need to go ahead and make recommendations to make improvements within the city. And if you wanted, I won't read the letter but I will tell you, we worked on procurement. Your bidding process, those processes, journal entries, we had some recommendations there. General ledger accounting, bookkeeping, recommendations. Review of our cash disbursements, with payments made to vendors, we made some recommendations there. Cash receipts as well. And then, of course, your billings, we had recommendations on the billings. And then the inventory for the water department, I know you've been missing a director over there, so getting adequate values applied to each of the inventory items and then taking an annual inventory and getting rid of items that are not of value. It's just hard to do that when you have turnover, right?
Right.
Payroll, we reviewed your capital assets. And then also, one comment on the vendor listing. Just maintaining your vendor listing and going through it and seeing if you have duplicate vendors. It's basically the same vendor, but they have two different names. Just want to watch out. for this. And that's all I have, unless you guys have any questions.
Okay, great. Councilmember Stevens?
So would you consider this a clean audit?
Yes, and I think you guys are in a very good financial position. I mean, I would like to see our management letter get smaller.
Well,
Of course.
So,
That's true.
but I know that that's difficult when you do have turnover making changes. It's just gonna, but I mean, yes, you do have a clean audit.
Great.
Anything else?
Councilmember Escovedo?
She's thinking.
Yeah. I mean, I know you see it as a clean audit. I kind of see when you have recommendations, not a completely clean audit.
Well, when you say a clean audit, the numbers are materially correct. That's what we mean by a clean audit.
Yeah, if we weren't clean, then we had some major issues to go work. There's always gonna be recommendations, but a clean audit says we passed, we don't have any issues, grants or anything else.
And
Councilmember-
management has provided their responses to all of the comments, so. If you have questions later, you can ask them, or if they have questions, they can contact me and I can let them know and they can.
Councilmember Lucas? Councilmember Martinez?
Well, first of all, thank you for coming all this way to Alpine
Oh,
and being in person with us.
of course.
And we appreciate your recommendations.
Oh,
Thank you so much.
Councilmember Portillo?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you for
Appreciate
letting me
Yes.
move up.
Yes, absolutely. You have a safe drive back.
Okay, thank you, and I'm
Thank
sure I'll see you soon.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Moving on to the consent agenda.
You can take the action now or at the action item, wherever you want to do.
What's easiest for you?
I guess during the action items.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Okay, great. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Alex?
Thank you. Today's consent agenda consists of 4 items. Item A, approval of the May 13, 2025 special meeting minutes. Item B, approval of the June 3rd, 2025 regular meeting minutes. Item C, approval of the May 2025 Office of the City Secretary report. And item D, approve resolution 2025-06-21, a resolution authorizing the Finance Department to open a new checking account to serve as a utility payment clearing account and establishing procedures to transfer funds to the appropriate utility funds on a monthly basis.
Okay, I need a motion.
consent agenda. as presented.
I need a second.
I second.
Okay, let's vote.
Aye.
All right, Alex, council unanimously approved the consent agenda. Okay, there were no items removed from the consent agenda. There are no reports and presentations. Let's move on to information or discussion items. The first one, if you would read it and then begin the discussion, belongs to Councilmember Escobedo.
To discuss board and commission nameplates to reflect individual names and not place. So whenever I've been at meetings or even on Zoom hearing a meeting, I have no idea who the majority of the board members are. Whether they're in a commission or just a regular board. I've had people in the community ask me, who's that? I have no idea. You know, and we shouldn't have to put place 1, place 2, place 3. That's ridiculous. I feel that these people volunteer to be on these boards and they take their time. Their names should be on that nameplate.
All right. Councilmember Portillo?
I agree with it. I mean, heard a lot of people also talking about, no one knows anybody's name, no one knows, and I'm with it 100%, so.
Councilmember Martinez?
I agree. I think we have to recognize the people who they volunteer. I was number 7 for a long time, so.
Number 7.
Yeah, so,
That's just, I don't know, to me, it's just very disrespectful.
Councilmember Lucas?
I agree with them. I think it's be beneficial, for those that are watching on Zoom or, on YouTube following Dave after the meeting. And then, they are not paid to do these, boards, so I think it'd be a good, token of appreciation from the city to them to at least recognize them by their names and the place that they're, representing.
Okay, Councilmember Stevens?
I'm good with it.
Okay. All right, anything else, Councilmember Escobedo? Okay, we're gonna move on to discussion item B. Councilmember Stevens.
Thank you, Mayor. And so this is, discuss the city leadership transition plan, ensure continuity of city operations. The reason I put this on the agenda, primarily driven by our agenda under executive reports. If there's nothing listed under the executive report, we council are not allowed to ask questions. In my views, we're going through the transition process. We need the opportunity to have discussion with the city manager on the items that are really important to us. And so I believe going forward until we get a permanent city manager, there needs to be a minimum of 4 items on there. We ask Geo that you at least start including these 4 and what other elements you're going to talk about, so that we have the opportunity to have a dialogue back and forth. And in my mind, the 4 items are, employee compensation, streets, water, and wastewater. Because those are the 4 strategic items that we as council, work so hard to get on the table. And there are lots of items that need to work. In my view, items are going to be important as we get into the budget cycle. The 5th one's probably going to be budget. And then whatever else, Geo's going to be off working. There's just lots of things we're going to need to have a dialogue on. So that's the reason I put it on the agenda. That's my plan. Comments from anyone else? Make sense?
Yeah. Councilmember Lucas?
I agree. That'd be very, beneficial for us, for sure. And then I guess I do have a couple other questions for you, Gio. So do we have anybody that's going to be taking over the leadership temporarily, since we're talking about the continuity of city operations for our utilities department with Johnny leaving on Friday?
Yes, so Johnny's actually leaving tomorrow, so it's last day. And I did
Oh,
have,
yeah.
that as part of my update for the report, but I'm happy to go over it now. So I have been meeting daily with the utilities department to coordinate operations and ensure the continuity during the transition. With Johnny's last day being tomorrow, I mean, it's clear that leadership within the department remains a critical focus at this point. One of my top priorities moving forward will be the recruitment of a utilities director And in the interim, I did speak with Mike Macias to provide operational leadership as a team lead until we can get somebody in the position. I wish I could be there more often, but I'm there for 30 minutes to an hour, I have to come over here to finish what I do over here. But I have received positive feedback from several of the employees who view him as a natural and respected choice. And I think he would bring confidence, a strong willingness to learn, and the trust of his colleagues. I think they'll have a lot of confidence in him. And I'm currently working with HR to develop a plan for filling the position, whether on an interim basis or through a permanent appointment, with the advice and the consent of the council. And that's going to be a key focus in the weeks ahead, because I think it's really important. I don't think that I have the capacity currently doing the city manager role and the city secretary role to really provide the kind of oversight that's needed for that department. So I was hoping to conduct interviews for the 2 applicants that we've had so far, and to have a recommendation, if there's not any more, for you all to consider on July 1st.
For a utility director or for
Or
an interim?
utilities director.
For a utilities director. So we have the applicant, the council received an email, they applied back in May.
The
And
other one,
then
Mike-
the other one, who is the other one?
Mike Macias.
Okay, Mike, yes. And he applied back in 22 when Keith Seeger left.
He applied initially at that time, so it's been quite a while, and then he applied again recently when the job was reposted. I believe it was in June, in early June,
Okay. Okay,
June 6th, I believe it was.
okay. Councilmember Escobedo?
I agree with what you're doing and how you want to conduct that. I think you've got a good plan.
Councilmember Lucas, I didn't mean to cut you short. Was
No,
there
you're
more?
fine.
Okay.
I had a couple things, but it was just kind of spot checking things, but we can get with one another in your office when we have more time.
Whatever you.
Does it relate to this item? If so, let's go ahead and discuss it.
It's just small questions, I guess. I was wondering how our critical city functions at this time. Is everything still stable, or are there things that need to be addressed?
There's certainly some things that need to be addressed, and I have a lot prepared for the manager report. Just a few key items. Really, the most concerning, I think, is grants. I think we really need some help there just to make sure that we continue to basically stay in good standing. I did receive a notification today that for our Title VI, we're in non-compliance status, so we have some steps we need to take to get back in compliance. And just to avoid any of the other grants kind of going that way, I really prefer to get some help. So I have been working on that. I asked Marcy to consult for us, just maybe 4 hours per week, just to get some help, make sure everything's in order. And just basically create a plan to follow up on them to make sure we're not missing any.
And her response?
She is considering the 4 hours per week right now, just to come in and again, try to make sure that we're where we're at and try to get us on track and make sure that we continue to be on track. And of course, I need to work on the Title VI compliance issue.
Can you explain what that is, what Title VI is?
To be honest, I haven't looked too much into it. I did get the notification today, and it's with TxDOT, and we have received a notice that we're in non-compliant status. So we have been given a 90-day window to come into compliance, complete the required Title VI training, and resubmit that survey that was previously submitted to get back into compliance status.
So we're not
That's one
quite,
of our TxDOT grants, I believe.
Okay.
but, I'm not sure.
okay, sorry, continue.
And then I guess to piggyback off of that, do you think the 4 hours, if she's willing to take on that workload, I guess, would be sufficient to help us out? Or is it something we should look at hiring somebody full-time
Well,
or even part-time?
I think the 4 hours would be sufficient to get a good standing where we're at. A lot of them, Megan, did explain a lot to me before she left. A lot of them are in a spot where it's really just financial kind of upkeep. So luckily, like with HIDA, Lone Star, a lot of the governor's office grants, we should be okay there. Chief does really good about monitoring all of his grants, which we have several of.
Thank you,
and
Chief.
He's the one that officiates all of that, so I think we're good on that. It's really just a couple, like right now, for one of the airport grants, we're having to do an RFP for a WAS relocation. It's, basically, we have a template that I think will be very beneficial, but it's making sure that we do all of the steps and that we maintain compliance with the grant. So I just would really prefer that somebody that has a lot of experience come in and just kind of review what we have and give us their opinion. Marcy being the one that wrote a lot of the grants, I thought she was a good option to go.
Okay, fair enough. And then, speaking of RFPs, how's the oversight on that? Is it something that you're taking over or?
On the RFPs?
Yes.
Yes.
Explain what that is.
So a RFP is a request for proposals. And the state of Texas basically has procurement laws that states that the city is going to expend over $50,000. That we have to go through a competitive bidding process in order to select the vendor that we're gonna use. And so we have a number of RFPs pending. We just released one on Friday for BDP. Our contract is expiring in August. So since it's expiring in August and there's so many deadlines to meet with applications and things of that nature, we had no choice but to get it out Friday evening. We posted on the website. I had the first publication sent to the paper and we're on track to be able to award a contract literally the day before the contract expires. So that's a good benefit there. Another one that we have is, let me see, I remember the Reliant Energy contract that we signed in 2020. We need to go through the competitive bidding process for that as well. So we're going to be working on that in the coming months because we signed that in October of 2020. So that's another one we're doing. The AWAS relocate one is it's tied to a grant and TxDOT isn't providing the guidance for it. We're gonna have to do the RFP in-house. A lot of their grants with TxDOT Aviation, they manage everything for us. But for some reason in this instance, Megan did advise me we're gonna have to do that one. So we're gonna look at doing that one. I think we have a good template for that. And we have a health insurance RFP currently being managed by Hotchkiss Insurance. But aside from that, Megan's advice was to do a well services RFP for one of the Skinner contracts that we have. Reason being is because we need a lot of assistance with our wells. And the concern was we were going to go over 50,000 in the next year by using that vendor. Luckily, there was a House bill our Senate bill that just passed 1173 that upped the threshold from 50,000 to 100,000 effective September 1st. So I think we might be okay, but we're gonna need to research a bit further to make sure that we're not gonna have to go through the competitive bidding process and we're not gonna exceed 100,000 if that's the case.
And then, so it sounds like your transition with the city manager that just left was pretty good.
Yes, it was really well.
And so there was good knowledge transfer there. How's our knowledge transfer looking like it's going with our utilities department?
The utilities department, like I said, it's clear that it's critical that they have some sort of leadership. I mean, I am going in, I'm asking them if they need, I'm trying to do what I can. It's just that with all of the pending items, including budget, the budget is currently, I have a stack of papers, with the departmental requests. So it's going to be a lot of work being that I've never prepared a budget before.
Mhm.
Luckily, I think Victoria, our finance director, is really strong. And I anticipate that she's going to be able to do a lot of the numbers for me, which is really great. And it's gonna go well. It's just, we're already a little bit behind schedule, but it's another example of why leadership in that department is just so critical at this point.
Yeah, I think it was more in reference to like the transfer of knowledge with our SCADA systems or wells. So we have SCADA on both sides for wastewater and water. Where locations of things are, such as our valves, clay valves, PRVs and whatnot. How to do our lift stations we have here over on the east side of town. And then also the project that we have going on with the wastewater treatment facility, is all that being transferred over, do you know?
So we are definitely going to have to do some work there as well. I haven't really had a moment to look into the Dowtech project with the wastewater treatment plant, and that's something that I plan on doing. Another reason why I think some leadership in that department would be really good. Aside from that, I spoke with the utilities team and did make a recommendation to contact a vendor to basically get SCADA loaded on their phones. They can set access to where multiple employees have view access, some have, control access. And luckily Dominic does have access and he's been trained by Johnny somewhat to monitor the SCADA and make the adjustments as necessary. So I think we're doing okay. Tomorrow on Johnny's last day, once I advised you all of what my plan was with Mike Casillas, I was going to go and make that announcement, put him into, again, like more of a lead role, and ask that Johnny spend some time with him to make sure that he goes over the SCADA and stuff like that.
Okay. That's all I had. Thank you for putting this on there so we can ask those questions.
Question. So where are we with the GCEQ? Are we still getting fines and how do we resolve those?
Yes, we did just receive another notice of violation. I believe it was Thursday or Friday that Megan gave to me, so I haven't had a moment to review exactly what's needed there. Again, we are needing a lot of support in that department, so I'm hoping if we are able to fill the utilities director role soon, I think that would definitely help me out, being, there's a number of projects currently pending. But we need to look into that further.
Councilmember Martinez?
Well, Gio, thank you for step up and for make the decisions. Easy going, so we need all the information that you can have. My question is about the utility director. So you say we have two applicants, that would be permanent or that would be internship or how do that will work?
It would be up to the council. I'm going to put it on the agenda for approval, either an interim appointment or a permanent appointment. I'd like to explain a little more at that time what my thought process is, but what I'm trying to do now, being that it's such a critical role to fill, especially with Johnny leaving, is I'm trying to conduct interviews with the applicants that we have and then maybe bring both of them to the meeting and basically ask for your approval on whatever recommendation that might be.
Do you think that Johnny maybe will want to help with the new utility director to guide him because he won't be here by the time that he get elected?
Right. I can certainly ask him tomorrow, but I don't think he would be interested.
Thank you.
Councilmember Portillo?
Now, Bob did a lot of it. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Good job, you.
Okay,
you.
Councilmember Stevens?
So to help understand, this is for council as well. Utility director and water department are two different positions.
Mhm.
And I can understand having Mike as the water department lead because we are desperately needing a leader there. And if you end up with Mike leading water, you got Richard leading wastewater, at least you got that covered. So help me understand the thought process. If you were to come forward with utilities director, whoever that might be, and if it turns out to be Mike, we still have a hole in the water department. So what's your thinking there?
Well, we did, I've been speaking to them about the structure. There's a number of recommendations. Blake has been here for quite some time. He left and came back, and he was a supervisor at one point as well. So he's recommended just kind of restructuring the department. I have posted for a technician, the technician position they were hiring for that. I think that'll help if we need additional employees, but when I spoke with Blake this morning, his recommendation was to leave it around what we have right now. They do recommend changes like going back to 2 individual meter readers. They think that'll help, which right now we do have a project going with the utility billing software transition, which essentially kind of unified the gas and the water billing in the meters, combining them into one account, which is causing, a little bit of concern just because it really affects the routes. And the gas department has a really efficient route setup. So the utility team has a large backlog at the moment of work orders, meter tests and things of that nature. So because of that, I think that might be a good recommendation, and it's something that I would want to do. Should we put the utilities director in place? Like, I would want to kind of get their insight, especially being that they're very familiar with the department. But from the feedback that I got this morning, the number of employees that they currently have, it's just kind of reorganizing and restructuring the department to make things more efficient.
So what I think I heard was you would come back to council with not only recommendations for utility director, but potentially a structural change associated with that department.
That's great.
The other question I have is licenses. We don't have any water licenses. So what's the thought process there? I don't know how we operate without a water license.
So Mike does have his sea and wastewater,
That's not a water.
and he is willing to get the sea and water, and so is the other applicant. I spoke with our municipal judge recently. She's on the water development board for the Marathon area. He said that they ran into a similar issue. They had a utility director there that was there for many years. He passed away. They were really struggling, and they got I think it was a retiree from Tech Stop that moved to the area. He went, he got the licenses, and she said it's been great ever since. She said it really wasn't as difficult as it may seem, and that it worked out really well for them. So I'm confident that if we get somebody in place, they can get the required license.
And what's the timeline from TCEQ?
We can definitely look into that.
I would really like to make sure we understand that. Because in the past, we've had to make sure we get the license, we've had to buy a license to cover that. We have 2,500 water accounts. You do not want, and we're about to enter drought season, and we don't want to run into an issue in our section.
From my understanding with working with TCEQ and everything, we can outsource somebody to overlook. And I know we have Marfa Marathon and also Port Davis that maybe we can reach out to and see if anybody will cover us in the meantime.
So I just want to make sure we get that covered.
And that came from TCEQ, correct?
Yes, that's per TCEQ.
Okay, so we should be fine. Okay, Councilmember Escobedo?
So you were talking to you about getting to people to do the meters. I think that is a great idea. I think that I'm not too. I would rather put the, what do they call the meter, the automatic,
Smart meters.
those things, yeah, on hold. And I would rather spend money on hiring or putting money towards getting people employed to help with that.
Well, so as far as the smart meters, I have kind of paused that at the moment, pending you all's input. I was gonna bring it up for discussion on July 1st. Because we found out today, the price tag was gonna be like 40,000, I think it was, and we just really need to do some research, make sure that those funds are available. And that's just for the pilot, which is a 60-day program. So we've also had other vendors reaching out saying that they would do it for free and things of that nature, so. I mean, pending y'all's input, I didn't really see that it was a priority that I should focus on at the moment. I thought maybe we get a utilities director and a permanent city manager, or something that we could pursue a little later. If you would like, I'd be happy to discuss it further at the next meeting, and that'll give us time to research the figure, see if the
Yes,
funds are.
yes, please. I've had a lot of residents reach out to me and
Okay.
they think it's time that the city did that. And it'll help lighten the load for the utility department.
Yes.
So that they can
that'll
work
give us
on-
Time to see if the funds are available.
So we didn't already have funds allocated out of the budget because we knew there was going to be a price tag.
That is a question I wasn't able to ask Megan before she left, but we can definitely look and see what is available. And just figure out the plan going forward. Either way, we weren't really thinking it would be the best to launch until October, with the new utility billing software.
Right, right.
We-
I do
we still
remember
have
that.
time Regardless what direction the council wants to go.
Right, okay, great. Yes, so we do need to have a discussion about that.
Okay.
Please, please. Okay, anything else, council?
The smart meters will help to have a clear bill every month. Water bill.
I would say so, yes, because the customer could monitor it themselves and then the data is sent automatically, which is the real advantage, because that would really alleviate a lot of the tasks that the utilities department has to do by going out and manually reading the meters, which causes a lot of the errors that we receive in the billing, which causes concerns with the bills from the residents. or customers.
I've been getting a lot of calls
Yeah, which
about
leads
that
us,
water bill.
Already, the utility billing software should mitigate some of those concerns, being that, each technician is a meter reader, whether it be the whole team or two in the future, they'll have an app and they could enter the reading. And once they enter that reading, if it's abnormal, they'll automatically be prompted to take a picture because the software will be able to see that that's unusual type of read, like it's a high read or something like that, which would just basically create a red flag to let us know something might be off, and they'd automatically have to take a picture. So it would also cut down on the number of rereads that we have as well.
Thank you.
all right, so moving on to discuss the updated job description for city manager and recommend updates prior to posting the position, and this one is mine. So Geo has provided the job description for the city manager in your black folders. I believe it's also available on the city website. I was able to pull it up and I think that's where I went to. This is what was in place when we hired Megan. Is that correct?
Yes, the one in the black folder is the last one that was approved by the city council, by resolution 2021-07-17. And then the one included in your packet is it's basically the draft that was provided for the compensation study. So the compensation study was approved in November, but the job descriptions weren't. So I wanted to provide both, just so you had both to work off of.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay. Do you remember what page in the packet that is?
37 of the
37. Yes, yeah, that's the one I looked at. That's where it was. Okay. All right, so looking at. So the one in the packet was the one that was written for the compensation study, but has not been approved. This was a recommendation by whom? By Megan, by the compensation
It
study?
was part of the compensation study, so each department filled out a job analysis tool. And that was sent to the consultants and they drafted the job descriptions based off that job analysis and, other job descriptions for that position in the market.
Okay, so one thing that I highlighted, and I see that on the one that was used in 2021 when Megan was hired, it is written that way. On the one in the packet from the compensation study, it says a minimum of a master's degree in public administration is required and 7 years of experience. Whereas on the one under which Megan was hired in 2021, it says it's preferred to have a master's in public administration, preferred to have 3 to 5 years in public administration or municipal government, and preferred to be bilingual. I feel like looking at this, when we say that a minimum is required and that 7 years of experience is required, we are really limiting ourselves. You have quite capable individuals who have possibly run other city governments or school districts or nonprofit organizations that handle a multi-million-dollar budget that will not have a master's degree in public administration. And I feel like we're shooting ourselves in the foot if we require that. So I feel like that for the minimum is something council we should consider as opposed to saying preferred, because that opens us up to more applicants when we say preferred. Because you can have individuals that are qualified that don't have that master's degree in public administration and 7 years of experience, especially with us here in the rural community. Councilmember Portillo,
I agree with you, Mayor.
okay. Councilmember Martinez,
I like that you added that he prefer bilingual. Because we have a lot of people in this area, they either speak English or learn Spanish. So they will be able to communicate whoever take this position and is not listed in this one. So I like that to add to prefer bilingual.
Councilmember Lucas,
So I'm with the mayor on that. What I was looking at on the internet and looking at other municipalities, most of them are an MPA, MBA, or something in the similar range of those is preferred. Yeah, absolutely. So I think we're shooting ourselves in the foot there a little bit as well. Also with the 7 years of experience, I didn't get to really find too much on that, unfortunately, and I'd like to maybe see, with this being a smaller municipality, and I really don't like putting it this way, but I feel like a lot of people have to have some kind of entry to barrier, I guess, at some point. And I think we've been used as that dramatically with the turnover in our other departments. I've seen building officials come in here and use this as an opportunity to get licensing, and then they move on to a bigger municipality. Same with our utility directors. Not that I want to see that anymore, but I think you looking at 7 years of experience, they're gonna laugh at what we're offering them in the grand scheme of compensation compared to what they may merit and rate at a bigger municipality that they can also qualify for with that amount of experience.
Councilmember Escobedo,
I agree with what he's saying. That makes a lot of sense.
Councilmember Stevens,
Thanks, Mayor. So my view is, I believe for this position, it's a minimum of a college degree. I don't care what degree it's in, but there's gotta be a minimum of college degree. That's, to your point, it's an entry point. I'd almost like to say required bilingual. I mean, this is outline. That's probably a hard notch to cross. But boy, I think from our standpoint, that's a really important requirement. I do like the requirements. I think 7 years, public administration, that's, I think, over the top, but I do think there needs to be 3 to 5 years of public administration or municipal government as a requirement. So my bias would be required college degree, preferred public administration, required 3 to 5 years public administration, municipal government. I'd like to say required bilingual, but I don't know if we cross that, so I'd say preferred bilingual. That's my opinion.
I believe preferred bilingual. And you said 3 to 5 years of,
Public administration, municipal government required.
okay, so that would eliminate anybody who has been a possible CEO of, say, I don't know, Big Ben Telephone, or anybody who's been a college president, or anybody who has run a federal nonprofit.
Who would not? College presidents have to have PhDs. So I'm not saying what degree, just.
No, I'm talking about required public administration of municipal government. I think we need to be careful there.
If we want to change it to required, I just don't think this is a training ground for someone to go run a $17 million, 100-employee business. I've just seen too many try and fail with all the right heart and intention. I just think we need a barrier that says they've actually run something. So if you want to
Something,
say
yeah,
not-for-profit, school district, fine
Sure.
with me, I don't care. But they
Yeah.
can run an organization comparable to this. That's where my
Yes.
head sets at. So I'm.
I agree with that. Yes, yeah. Okay. All right, is there anything else on here, council, that we want to, I mean, we can take a minute. This was in your black folders, so you're just now seeing this one, whereas the
Yeah.
one from the compensation study was in your packet. So you had the opportunity to look at it before, but this one, please take a moment and look at it and see if there's anything else that we want to amend on this job description.
I'm good with the job description. I just think when it comes to writing a contract, which the city manager has, we council have some work to do relative to our responsibilities as part of that contract as well. But we'll get to that when we get to that point.
It is very similar to what we did have in our packet, other than what that experience, education and training was, which we just amended. Alex, were you able to catch all that? I know it's recorded if you go back. Okay. So city manager, gotta get used to your new title. What's the next step as far as getting the job description? Do we just go for it now? Do you need to come back to council with a resolution? What do you need to do?
I mean, there's a number of different ways of think through it. Ideally, I would know which one you like better and which one I should amend. I mean, I think it'd make more sense to do the compensation study one. That way we could at some point, hopefully soon, do the rest of the job descriptions and get them approved as well. So we have a uniform kind of collection of job descriptions they're going.
So you would just amend the experience education portion?
I would say I can go ahead and amend it with your notes.
Uh-huh.
Let's say that you want to go ahead and do the compensation study one, I'll amend it to include those notes that you had already provided. And then I could have it for approval, official approval on July 1st. But we really need to discuss as well what kind of process the council wants to pursue for the permanent position, like whether or not we're gonna do it in-house, if the council wants to try doing it in-house, maybe using TML to post the job for a while, and then based on the outcome of applicants, you know, maybe look at the executive recruiting side of things. I think if any position we should use executive recruiting, it would be for city manager. However, I mean, I'm aware of a couple people who might qualify, who might be good options. So I think, you know, it wouldn't hurt doing kind of a trial run to see what kind of candidates we could get just by using TML and doing everything internally.
Before we spend money on a headhunter. Okay,
So that would need to be part of the discussion, but if you'd like, what I can do is amend it how you prefer. And then we could have it for official approval. If the council would like to fast track that, I mean, I can just make the amendments and post it, you know, tomorrow. But I think I'd rather have an official approval on July 1st, just to make sure, you know, that it's approved by you all officially, and then going forward, we can get the other ones approved as well.
okay, so let's see how council feels about that. Councilmember Escobedo?
I think we should do for Geo said,
Get the official approval.
because we don't need to be
Rush.
rushy. That's what gets us into trouble.
Councilmember, sorry. Go ahead.
And that's what gets the city into trouble.
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes, I agree that he can make the amendments in changes and present them to us on July.
Councilmember Portillo?
Same.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yeah, I go with that. The one question that's not in here that I think we're gonna have to figure out as council is, and I have no idea how to measure it, so I'm putting something on the table that I don't have an answer for. How do you measure someone's willingness to come to Alpine, stay in Alpine, and be in Alpine? As opposed to, we ask them the questions, of course I'm gonna come to Alpine, and then they're here for a month and say, I'm out of here. This is a unique place. And I don't think it needs to go in the position description. That's, in my mind, just one of the things we're gonna have to consider. So I just put out there, but I'm fine with that, with the approach.
Good point. Councilmember Lucas?
I'm good with the direction you're going.
Okay, so Alex, can you add that to the agenda for July 1st?
You all have any other edits on the job description before? No,
I'm good with the one that I was able to review. That was in our packet, just with the amendments that we discussed, is where I stand with it.
perfect. Thank you.
Councilmember Portillo? Yes.
Agree.
Councilmember Martinez?
We will add it prefer bilingual.
Yes. Right, yeah, and everything we talked about, yes.
Okay.
And Councilmember Lucas said yes. Councilmember Escobedo? Councilmember Stevens? Good to go, Gio.
And bilingual English, Spanish.
Yeah.
Thanks, next.
Yeah. Okay, good deal. Okay, moving on to discussion item D. This belongs to our city manager.
Discussion item D is revenue and expense reports for December 2024, January 2025, February 2025, and March 2025. And Vicky was unable to make it again today. She has she was at a doctor's appointment. She couldn't make it back. So these reports were tabled from the last meeting because she couldn't make it.
Okay,
If you'd like, we can put it on the next meeting, or if you have any questions, you're welcome to contact us, but I didn't prepare the reports. I was expecting her to.
okay, that's fair. Council? I guess we have really no choice but to move it to the next meeting.
Yes.
Yes. I was good with them before, so I don't have an issue.
Okay, I mean, they do look good, but
Unless you, or we don't have to put them back on. It's just that we don't have questions for.
does anybody think they'll have questions?
it.
No? Okay, city manager, I think we're good. So we don't need to put it on that. Thank you, Alex. All right, so moving on to a 5-minute break at 6:38 PM. How's that? I didn't forget.
Rick, I think that's your biggest.
right, Alex, we are resuming the meeting at. It's just 22. 6:44 PM. All right, with that, we are moving on to action items. Action item A belongs to the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Action item A is approved the second and final reading of ordinance 2025-06-02. An ordinance approving the rezone application 2025-06-02, amending the official zoning map of the city by rezoning the property located at 1009 East Gallego Avenue and legally described as all of lots 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and the east half of lot 3 and 9 in block 33 Hancock Addition south of the railroad, save and except the north 20 varas of lots 4 and 5, and the north 20 varas of the east one half of lot 3, block 33 Hancock Addition south of the railroad, as the same appears in the map with plat records on file in the office of the county clerk of Brewster County, Texas, rezoning the subject property from R4 Mobile Home District to C1 Neighborhood Commercial District, providing findings of fact, repealer, severability, effective date, proper notice, and hearing clauses.
I need a motion.
I move we approve the ordinance as presented.
I need a second. Okay. And discussion. We'll start with the city manager.
Thank you. The city council is considering this ordinance, which proposes the rezoning of the property located at 1009 East Gallego Avenue from R4 to C1. And this request was submitted by property owner Mike Iones. It aims to facilitate the reestablishment of a commercial use previously permitted on top.
And I want to point out this is the second reading, so we've already discussed this before. Any other discussion? Let's vote.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, Alex, city council voted unanimously to approve the second and final reading of ordinance 2025-06-02. All right, moving on to action item B, city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Action item B is approved the second and final reading of ordinance 2025-06-03. An ordinance amending chapter 90 taxation, article 5, short-term rentals to the Alpine Code of Ordinances, amending rules and regulations regarding short-term rentals within the city limits, providing the establishment of up to a $500 penalty per occurrence for violations of the ordinance, providing for the following: findings of fact, enactment, repealer, penalty, savings, severability, proper notice, meeting, and effective date clauses.
I need a motion.
And I move we approve the ordinance 2025-06-03 as presented.
I need a second.
Second.
Okay, council, I'd like to point out this is second and final readings. We've discussed it before. Is there any other discussion? Okay, let's vote.
Aye.
Alex, council unanimously approved the second and final reading of ordinance 2025-06-03. Moving on to action item C, city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Action item C is approved the second and final reading of ordinance 2025-06-04. An ordinance amending chapter 46, fire prevention and preservation, article 2, fire prevention codes, section 46-43. Violations to reflect the fire permit inspection fees may be set by annual city council resolution, providing the establishment of up to a $500 penalty per occurrence for violations of the ordinance, providing for the following: findings of fact, enactment, repealer, penalty, savings, severability, proper notice of meeting, and effective date clauses.
I need a motion.
I move we approve ordinance 2025-06-04 as presented.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion. Once again, this is a second and final reading. Council, is there any other discussion? Okay, let's vote.
Aye.
Alex, council unanimously approved the second and final reading of ordinance 2025-06-04. Okay, moving on to action item D, city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Item D is approved the second and final reading of ordinance 2025-06-05. An ordinance amending chapter 10 animals to the Alpine Code of Ordinances, amending section 10-48 registration of dogs and cats, amending section 10-49 binders of lost dogs and cats, amending section 10-50 dead animals duty to remove, amending section 10-52 keeping of wild animals and exotic animals, providing amended language to provide additional clarification throughout the chapter, providing updates to animal department and facility titles within the city, providing the establishment of up to $500 penalty per occurrence for violations of the ordinance, and providing for the following: findings of fact, enactment, repealer, penalty, savings, severability, proper notice, and meeting and effective date clauses.
Any motion?
It's 2025-06-05 as presented.
I need a second.
Second.
Okay, once again, second and final reading. Is there any other discussion, council? Okay, let's vote.
Aye.
Alex, council unanimously approved the second and final reading of ordinance 2025-06-05. Okay, moving on to action item E, city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Item E is approved resolution 2025-06-22, a resolution making the following changes to the city's general election pursuant to Senate Bill 914, 89th regular legislature, changing the city of Alpine general election date from the May uniform election date established by law to the November uniform election date established by law, providing for the holdover of the mayor and city council members to conform to the November uniform election date, establishing election procedures for future municipal general elections, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
I need a motion.
We approve resolution 2025-06-22 as presented.
I need a second.
I'll
Okay.
second that.
Okay, all right, city manager, begin the discussion, please.
Okay, so the city of Alpine has recognized significant increase in voter participation during November elections. And did request, on September 3rd, 2024, they approved a resolution formally requesting legislative support to transition the elections from May to November. The legislation was passed and signed by the governor, so the council is now able to, by resolution, change the date from the May uniform election date to November uniform election date. And if passed in 2026, we would need to amend the city charter to memorialize the changes. And the resolution just lists all of the holdover provisions and the exact terms that the council members will hold over based on the transition. Do you have any questions?
Councilmember Lucas. Councilmember Stevens,
I'm good.
Councilmember Portillo.
Good.
Councilmember Escobedo,
I'm good.
Councilmember Martinez. Okay, let's vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Alex, city council unanimously approved resolution 2025-06-22. Moving on to action item F, city manager.
Thank you. Item F is approved resolution 2025-06-23, a resolution approving the recommended hotel occupancy tax grants awards from the Hotel Occupancy Tax Committee for fiscal year 2025 to 2026.
I need a motion.
Resolution 2025-06-23, and with special note and comment and thanks to the Hotel Occupancy Tax Committee for their hard work.
Great. I need a second. Okay, and discussion, city manager, start us out.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have Chris Ruggia present. He's going to go over a presentation discussing the award recommendation from the Hotel Occupancy Tax Committee. And we'll go ahead and start it.
Hello, for those of you I haven't met, I'm Chris Ruggia, your Director of Tourism. And I wanted to very briefly go over with you the process that the Hotel Occupancy Tax Committee does to bring these recommendations to you. So if I can get the second slide, please. Each year, the city opens up a window of time for folks who want to do a project that would bring people to town and request grant funds. This year, we had $680,400 in requests that came in that application period. The budget available to provide for grants was $400,000. So what the Hotel Occupancy Tax Committee has to do is come up with what they think are going to be the most effective use of that $400,000. So they had to cut 41% from the funds that were requested to bring the recommendations that you see in front of you. So next slide, please. So the way that they do that, the guidelines of the applications has criteria that they use to evaluate each application. And they have a score sheet and they give a 1 to 10 on each of these criteria. And they are the impact estimated on hotel nights, overnight hotel stays, the professionalism of the application, sound business and promotional plan, the capacity to host a successful program or event, a diversity of revenues. In other words, they're not asking for 100% of their money to come from this grant, to incentivize new events or activities and innovative programs. That's a weighted scale, so they give a 1 to 10. We run it through a spreadsheet, and that gives them a guidance when they're then looking at how much they're gonna award each of these applications. Now, a low score on this doesn't require them to cut the grant, because there might be reasons. Like they might find that though capacity to host a successful event is less weight, they might be so good at that the committee might decide, but this is a guide for them, that score sheet. That's the next slide, please. And so that's the process by which you got the recommendation. Now, there's a couple of requests that didn't make it into your recommendations, but that the committee wanted you to consider. And one of them was Coconut Field restorations and improvements. That's something that came from Alpine Independent School District. It has come in the past and has been funded in the past. The committee feels that it's very important that for historical preservation restoration and for visitation, it's a tourism landmark, Coconut Field. However, the way that it's being, the grants are being requested year over year, the committee really felt like a process wherein the different stakeholders would come together and look at what are the maintenance and restoration needs and what are the different funding resources, rather than the school district coming applying for this grant every year. It's a lot compared to the other grants. It's a big one. It's important, but the committee really felt like, let's recommend that those stakeholders come together and come up with a plan. And then the council could consider if some items in those needs were worthy. You guys might look at the hotel tax fund balance as a specific project on a one-off, rather than kind of putting that weight on our annual grant budget. So that was one recommendation. Right, they did fund renovation of the decorative lighting, that cast iron lighting. But the one thing they really recommended council look at is the stadium lighting, because one of the projected projects is that would be updated for night sky friendliness, which is really important for our tourism. But that's something you guys can consider when time is appropriate. That's one. And then the other was another request from Alpine Independent School District, and that was for a youth softball tournament. Now, the committee really bullish on youth softball tournaments. Youth sports are big drivers of travel. We would love to see that happen. The concerns with that application was the school district doesn't own the Manuel Payne field. That was what the application was for. In order to bring those tournaments to town, there were improvements needed to be made to that field. And that again was something where there was uncertainty at the committee as to, was the grant, the people asking for the money, the ones who are actually able to work on that field because they don't own it. But because if that work gets done, not only one tournament, but potentially many could happen. And so that once again was something that the committee really felt would be a strong candidate for a fund balance project. But we recommend that school district and city staff get together, get on the same page, find out what needs to be done, what really is the outlook for tournaments, and then bring that to you for separate consideration. So we just wanted to make sure you guys were aware of those, and that you knew how the committee did their work and got this recommendation to you. So if any of you have questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Councilmember Portillo?
No, I mean, both of these, being born, raised, played baseball here, did a lot of stuff here, and also, the youth. I'm very big on this, and we've been traveling for years, elsewhere, and I see tournaments going on in all these small communities and how much money is brought into these communities, and why aren't we doing this? So, coming into council, I'm a big advocate. This was one of my things on my agendas to do things like this. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and as I said, really would love to see that happen.
Yes.
I think the fund balance is the place to look for it rather than the annual grant.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. So I'm your ex officio member on the hot committee. And so I commented about how well they work. I want to compliment you, Chris, in terms of the process you went through. And all of the members were engaged in trying to cut 41%. I mean, they did a phenomenal job, took their biases out and really focused on how to allocate the funds. Relative to recommendation number one, I've already begun to start a dialogue with some of the stakeholders about recommendation number one. It's my view, there's an opportunity for the city to really come together with the other stakeholders and focus on, Coconut. And I know there's some activities from the school district, from the university and others, Cowboys. And my view is we have a fund balance and the opportunity to pull those players together to make a difference. So I've volunteered to take the lead on that, and I'll bring it back to council. I've got one more meeting to be able to have and come back with a potential recommendation. The second item, I'm with you. I mean, there's three of us put in about $2,000 last year, putting money in the Ladybugs field. We went and bought all the material for it, got it spread. That's an area we're gonna go off and work. I think there's an opportunity between the school district and the university to help make all that play. So we'll work that one as well. So anyway, I'm loudly in favor.
Yeah, and you need any help or anything, let me know. Thanks. I'd be more than happy to help you out with all this also.
Thanks.
Councilmember Martinez?
I just have a question. Didn't we approve some money to the Alpine Historic Association to fixing the coconut field? So is this different remodeling?
Gave them we approved historic designation through, we did that on council. So they have the ability to go apply for grants to go work that. As Chris pointed out, in the past, they've come in and gotten hot funding from us. And we looked and said, boy, there's an opportunity to make a bigger play than just use city money. And that's what we're trying to work on recommendation number one.
Yeah, and
What
Michelle was
ideas?
widely in favor of this initiative.
Yep.
Yes, because she reached out to myself and
Yep.
Megan also.
Yeah, both ideas, they're really great. Thank you so much. I have one more questions. I saw that you put the divisions of the different categories. Could you tell us a little bit of the hub funds that you have about the sporting or historical or advertising? So you have different categories of the hub.
Yes, those categories are defined in the law. The state legislature, when they created the hotel occupancy tax, they said every expense to be legal has to do two different things. One, it has to benefit the hotel industry. And two, it has to fall under one of these categories. And so advertising is kind of obvious, though we require, it really needs to be advertising out of the area to bring people here. So that's something that's often education with people coming, wanting grant funds to make sure they realize they can't pay for a bunch of posters and put them up around town. That doesn't count for bringing heads into beds and things like that, that it can't be local. Historical restoration and preservation, that is pretty wide open. It can be for anything except has to directly benefit the hotel industry. And that means the properties that you can really use that for are pretty limited. You have to show a strong case for why is that important to a visitor? Why is that likely to bring a visitor? And that's where Coconut Field, we funded the Ritchie, which is a music venue, but also it's the oldest remaining commercial structure in town. And it's a place that visitors go to, things like that. There's a pretty limited number of those buildings, but otherwise it's real flexible. Sporting events, again, the kinds of expenses you can reimburse or pay for a sporting event are really wide open, but that sporting event needs to be one that is going to bring a significant percentage of their audience from out of town. And so Alpine Cowboys baseball is obviously one. Both of our rodeos also bring a lot of folks in. Let's see, what did I leave out? Promotion of the arts. That's one that the specific arts that we're promoting are actually listed in the law. At first I was thinking, wait, we could be It could be a cooking thing or whatever, but actually culinary arts are not listed in the law. So we're careful with that, but primarily what our funds get requested for there is music, is live music. So a lot of our events have music, and that's the source for paying the bands that come through is promotion of the arts.
Make people happy.
Yeah, that's the hope.
Thank you for your hard work.
Oh, thank you.
Councilmember Escobedo?
I think all of the questions have been asked, y'all. Rick and Chris, y'all did a great job.
Thanks very much.
Councilmember Lucas?
I got to listen to y'all's committee that day when y'all were doing all this. My hat is off to all y'all.
Oh, thank you.
That is quite the undertaking. That's some very hard decisions that were made, especially when y'all were sitting there pinching pennies towards the end of it, trying to get
Yeah.
it to where the number needed to be. So thank you to all y'all.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Chris. All right, thank you. All right, so any other discussion? Let's vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Alex, City Council unanimously approved Resolution 2025-06-23. Okay, moving on to action item G. Councilmember Escobedo, if you would read that.
I'll make a motion to approve updating the boards and commissions nameplates to reflect the individual members' names.
I need a second. All right, discussion. Councilmember Escobedo, start us out.
During our discussion, I made it very clear that it is important for people to have their names be recognized instead of a number. It is important not only for them, but also for the public to know who is sitting behind that nameplate.
Any other discussion? Let's vote.
Aye.
Okay, Alex, City Council unanimously approved updating the boards and commissions nameplates to reflect the individual members' names. Okay, moving on to action item H, City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Item H is approve SGR proposal for executive recruitment services for the position of utility director.
I need a motion.
Mayor, I move that given the discussion we had earlier, we postpone this to a future meeting.
Okay, I need a second. Okay, any discussion on postponing? Okay, let's vote on postponing this to a future city council meeting.
Aye.
Okay. Alex, City Council unanimously voted to postpone this to a future city council meeting. City Manager, do we need to dispose of the original motion or are we good? All right, moving on to action item A, City Manager, or action item I, City Manager.
Action item I is approve the acceptance of the fiscal year 2022-2023 audit of Gibson, Reddick, and Patterson LLC.
I need a motion.
We approve the fiscal year 2022-2023 audit of Gibson, Running, and Patterson LLC as presented.
I need a second. Okay. Discussion, City Manager, start us out.
The audit was presented earlier today and now it's just time for the council to accept unless you have any other questions or any comments.
Okay, any discussion, council? Let's vote.
Aye.
Alex, City Council voted unanimously to approve the acceptance of the fiscal year 2022-2023 audit. Okay, and action item J was removed earlier. And moving on to executive reports. Okay, Alex, please put 6 minutes on the clock starting now. Okay, so I just wanted to make things very clear. After the Sentinel article came out, there may have been some misconceptions and some people have reached out to me, still confused about what has transpired the last several city council meetings. So I just want to point out to everybody, public employees, council, what we stated last week in the special city council meeting, there was no violation of the city manager's contract. The contract was required to be discussed and or evaluated in executive session. So a council member put it in executive session. The city manager at her request could have it moved to public. So therefore she had it moved to public. So there was no violation of that. In her contract, if council wanted to make any changes to the way she was reviewed, we had to do that with ample opportunity for her to be able to make any corrective actions, to do anything that would be necessary so that she could do well in her review. And so we did that by requesting that the contract be reviewed. June 3rd, city council meeting, we wanted to discuss the evaluation tool. Council members thought that a survey of employees might be good after hearing that morale was low and there were some employees that were unhappy and were told that they were not allowed to speak to council members. So many employers, including universities, schools, businesses, often have a review of the employees to find out what's going on so that you can be in touch with how management is doing. So that is not an unusual request. As a professor, I'm evaluated every year. The college sends out reviews to the students. As a high school teacher, I did that on my own. I sent out an anonymous review just to see how I was doing. So that was the reason that council discussed having a review of the employees. Council does have a unique perspective because we work closely with city administration, with the city manager, with the city secretary, and we can see how their management styles are. We can go based on that, and the public may not be aware of everything that's going on. So there was nothing underhanded done, nothing sneaky. We did not fire the city manager. She resigned. She was suffering from burnout, and she told us as a council that she was. And so this was an opportunity when she decided that she just needed to step back. So once again, she resigned. We did not fire her. Council, we talked about a review of council, and that's perfectly fine. We can do that if we want to pursue that and have our administrative team take the time to do that. However, we are reviewed every time we get elected. So that's when the public voices, and so we have our review by the citizens then. But if that's something that council wants to discuss, we certainly can go forward and discuss that. All right, so last week I mentioned that with the help of our city attorney, we discussed section 3.10 of the charter, interference with administration, just to clarify, because there is confusion out there and some statements that council is violating this charter section. So let me read it one more time to you. It says, neither the council nor any of its members shall instruct or request the city manager or any of the city manager's subordinates to appoint or remove from office or employment any person except with respect to those offices which are to be filled by appointment by the city council under provision of this charter, except for the purpose of inquiry and investigation, or as otherwise expressly provided in this charter, the council shall deal with the administrative services of the city solely through the city manager and shall not give orders to any of the city manager's subordinates, either publicly or privately, except with the city manager's specific approval. That's a little bit confusing. And so I asked Cynthia Trevino, our city attorney, to clarify that, and she sent some examples. So council can talk to employees. So employees know this. You will not be fired for talking to council. They just cannot tell you, you go do this, you go fix that pothole, you go inspect that house. But they can ask you, how are things going? What can I do to make your job easier? So you are allowed to talk to council. Okay, so that is specifically written in the charter. And I know that there was some confusion among employees. They have said that they felt like they would be fired. They were scared to say things if they talked to council, and that is not the case. So I wanted to point that out. So please do not ever be afraid to talk to council. And for council yourselves, be sure to, first of all, when items are coming up, talk to your constituents. Find out, because you're representing your constituents, how they want you to vote, what they want you to do. They elected you to do that. So seek advice from your constituents first. If you have confusion, talk to the city manager, talk to the city secretary. Whatever you do, do not rely on one person to give you information and advice. You want to seek knowledge from a multiple variety of people so that your judgment is not clouded by the one person that you speak to. All right, and so with that, we move on to the city manager report. Alex, 6 minutes on the clock, and keep in mind, Alex, bless you, that we can extend 4 minutes if he needs it.
Thank you, Mayor. I covered most of the items earlier during the discussion, but I was just going to mention that last week we did identify a potential issue with the municipal pools operation. And initially, we thought the motor and pump were failing. We had a quote for $12,300. Luckily, we did reach out to a vendor who went out and advised us that he made a change, and essentially the issue appears to be resolved now. The underlying problem was related to amperage, and that was corrected by replacing and relocating the breaker. So the vendor provided some recommendations to help extend the life of the pump, and it's now expected to function through the end of the season. So that's great. So just wanted to mention that. Out of an abundance of caution, we had temporarily paused pool party reservations. But now we're going to continue to monitor the system closely through the end of the week, and we anticipate resuming those reservations once it proves stable enough. So I just want to emphasize, of course, the city recognizes the importance of the municipal pool as a valuable amenity to our residents, and we are committed to doing everything possible to keep it operational through the remainder of the season. Other than that, the only other item I didn't touch on earlier was the IT and cybersecurity update. As part of our transition to Region 18 for IT support, we're moving forward with implementing the enhanced cybersecurity services partnership with Angelo State University. I had a kickoff meeting on June 12th, and we should have that fully deployed in 4 weeks. Part of that effort, or in that effort, the city will benefit from CrowdStrike. It's a cybersecurity platform monitored by 30 trained analysts at Angelo State University. And the whole service is entirely grant funded, so it comes at no cost to the city. Angelo State works directly with Region 18, our recently engaged vendor for IT support. And the next meeting is scheduled for tomorrow, so I look forward to providing updates as that implementation goes forward. That's all I have.
Okay, great, thank you. And remember, Council Pertoma, since nothing is listed here, we cannot ask any questions we've discussed. But you can reach out to the city manager independently if you have any questions. All right, so council member comments, Councilmember Stevens, 1 minute on the clock. Thank you. Councilmember Escobedo. Councilmember Lucas. Councilmember Martinez. Councilmember Portillo. All right, and with that, that brings us to item number 14, executive session. Pursuant to chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, the city council reserves the right to convene into executive session from time to time as deemed necessary during this meeting for any posted agenda item or to receive advice from attorney as permitted by law. Tonight, the city council will recess into executive session pursuant to section 551.074, and that is personnel matters, and also consultation with attorney 551.071 to discuss contractual terms of the interim city manager and any legal or procedural considerations. May I get a motion to move into executive? May I get a second? Okay, any discussion? Let's vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Alex, council voted unanimously to move into executive session at 7:17 PM. Okay, if you guys would like to stick around, we will call you back after executive session. Okay, may I have a motion to reconvene into open session?
Mayor, I move the city council move back into open session.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Let's vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Alex, council voted unanimously to move back into open session at 8 p.m. Okay, that brings us to action after executive session. Do we have any motions?
Mayor, I have two motions I'd like to make, resulting from executive session. First is that I propose that city council provide the interim city manager with a stipend of $2,500 per month while he serves in the role as interim city manager.
May I have a second discussion? Let's vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Alex, city council voted unanimously to provide Gio Calderon with a stipend of $2,500 a month while he serves in the role as interim city manager. Okay,
Mayor, I'd like to make a second motion, and I'd like to do a little bit of a preface to it. Because it is so important that city council and the interim city manager and or future city managers are aligned. I would propose that we include on our agenda in executive session a line item for operational personnel and discussions and considerations to ensure that the city council and the city manager are aligned and we have the opportunity for those important discussions.
okay, I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Let's vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Alex, city council voted unanimously to include that we're gonna have monthly discussions in executive session for operational and personnel considerations, discussions for these considerations to ensure the city council and the city manager are aligned. All right, and that concludes the executive session and action after. With that, we adjourn at 8:02 p.m. I did. You say 8?
Yeah, I'm sorry. You got blown back.
Good night, Mayor and Council.
Good night.